First contact gone wrong. The starship Horizon glided silently through the inky void of space, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The ship's sensors had detected an anomaly in a nearby system, an uncharted planet that showed signs of supporting life. "Dr. Patel, what's your assessment?" Sarah asked, turning to the ship's exobiologist. Raj Patel, a lanky man with a neatly trimmed beard, studied the readouts with intense concentration. "It's fascinating, Captain. The atmosphere is breathable, and there are clear signs of complex organic compounds. This could be the discovery of the century." Sarah nodded, a mixture of excitement and apprehension churning in her gut. Humanity had yet to encounter intelligent alien life, despite centuries of space exploration. Could this be the moment that changed everything? "All right, let's take a closer look," she decided. "Ensign Foster, take us into orbit." As the Horizon approached the planet, its verdant continents and azure oceans coming into clearer view, the ship's proximity alarms suddenly blared to life. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the tactical officer, called out, "We've got company." A massive vessel had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, its angular, metallic form a stark contrast to the Horizon's smooth lines. It was easily 3 times their size, bristling with what appeared to be weapon emplacements. "Hail them," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, a harsh guttural voice filled the bridge, accompanied by a visual feed of the alien bridge. The creatures were vaguely insectoid, with segmented bodies and multiple limbs. Their compound eyes gleamed with an unsettling intelligence. "You trespass in Zarkath space," the alien commander chittered, mandibles clicking. "Identify yourselves, or be destroyed." Sarah stepped forward, projecting calm authority. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. We were unaware this system was claimed." The alien's compound eyes seemed to narrow. "Ignorance is no excuse. You will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Your fate will be decided by the Hive Council." Sarah's mind raced. Powering down would leave them completely vulnerable. "Please, let us explain. We're on a mission of peaceful exploration. Surely we can." "Enough," the alien commander interrupted. "You have 10 of your Earth minutes to comply, or we will open fire." The communication cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Options," Sarah demanded, looking around at her crew. Jackson spoke up first. "Their weapons are hot, Captain. We're outgunned, but I think we could get a few good shots in before they overwhelm us." "And then what?" Dr. Patel interjected. "We'd just provoke them into destroying us outright." Ensign Foster, her young face pale but determined, chimed in. "What if we make a run for it? The Horizon is faster and more maneuverable. We might be able to lose them in the planet's atmosphere." Sarah weighed the options quickly. Fighting was suicide. Surrendering meant placing themselves at the mercy of an unknown, clearly hostile species. Running was risky, but it gave them a chance. "All right," she decided. "We run. Foster, plot a course for the planet's night side. Jackson, be ready with countermeasures. Dr. Patel, I want you monitoring the planet's conditions. If we're going in, we need to know what we're dealing with." The crew sprang into action, the tension on the bridge palpable. Sarah gripped the arms of her command chair, steeling herself for what was to come. "They're charging weapons," Jackson called out. "Evasive maneuvers, now," Sarah ordered. The Horizon banked hard, narrowly avoiding the first salvo of energy weapons from the Zarkath ship. The alien vessel was quick to give chase, unleashing a barrage of fire that lit up the void around them. Foster's hands danced across her console as she guided the ship towards the planet, entering the atmosphere in 30 seconds. "Brace for turbulence," Sarah commanded, her voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. The horizon shuddered as it plunged into the planet's atmosphere, trailing fire in its wake. The Zarkaf ship followed, relentless in its pursuit. "They're still on us," Jackson reported, his voice tight with stress. Sarah's mind raced, searching for a solution. Then she saw it, a massive storm system on their sensors, roiling with electromagnetic energy. "Foster, head for that storm," she ordered. "The interference should mask our signature." "Captain, the turbulence will be extreme," Patel warned. "We could break apart." "It's our only chance," Sarah replied grimly. "All hands, secure for impact. This is going to get rough." The horizon dove into the heart of the storm, buffeted by winds and pelted by debris. Lightning arced around them, the ship's hull groaning under the strain. Behind them, the Zarkath vessel struggled to maintain pursuit, its larger size working against it in the turbulent conditions. For several heart-stopping minutes, it seemed as though the horizon might tear itself apart. Then, miraculously, they burst through the other side of the storm, the alien ship nowhere in sight. A ragged cheer went up from the crew, but Sarah knew their ordeal was far from over. "Status report," she demanded. "Multiple systems damage," Jackson reported. "We've lost our main drive and long-range communications. Life support is holding, but our power reserves are critical," Patil added. Sarah nodded grimly. "Foster, find us somewhere to set down. We need to make repairs." As the horizon limped towards a clearing in a dense forest, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of their troubles. They had escaped immediate danger, but they were now stranded on an alien world, with a hostile force hunting them. The ship touched down with a bone-jarring thud, the landing struts groaning under the strain. As the engines wound down, an eerie silence fell over the bridge. "All right, people," Sarah said, standing up. "We're not out of this yet. Jackson, I want a full inventory of our weapons and supplies. Patel, start analyzing the local environment. Air quality, potential toxins, anything that might pose a threat. Foster, see what you can do about getting our communications back online." As her crew moved to carry out their tasks, Sarah allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. In all her years of training and service, she had never imagined a scenario quite like this. First contact had gone catastrophically wrong, and now they were fighting for survival on an alien world. But as she looked around at her determined crew, Sarah felt a surge of pride and resolve. They were explorers, scientists, and above all, human beings. Their species had faced countless challenges throughout history and had always found a way to persevere. "Whatever happens," she murmured to herself, "we'll face it together." Outside the ship, the alien sun began to set, casting long shadows across the unfamiliar landscape. In the gathering darkness, strange cries echoed from the forest, a reminder that they were truly in uncharted territory. As the crew of the Horizon prepared for their first night on this hostile world, none of them could have imagined the trials that lay ahead, or the incredible feats of courage, ingenuity, and determination that would be required to survive. The story of humanity's first contact with an alien species had taken a dark turn, but it was far from over. In the days to come, the crew of the Horizon would be pushed to their limits, forced to confront not only the dangers of an alien world, but also the very nature of what it meant to be human. And as the Zarkaf forces regrouped, preparing to hunt down the intruders who had dared to challenge them, the stage was set for a conflict that would test the very limits of human resilience and ingenuity. In the quiet of her quarters, Captain Sarah Chen looked out at the alien sky, a determination burning in her eyes. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she and her crew would face them head-on. They were explorers, adventurers, and above all, representatives of humanity. And they would show the universe exactly what that meant. The crash and the chase. The alien sun rose over the horizon, bathing the crash site of the horizon in an eerie violet light. Captain Sarah Chen emerged from the ship, her eyes scanning the unfamiliar landscape. The air was thick and humid, filled with the strange calls of unseen creatures. "Report," she called out to her crew, who were already busy assessing their situation. Dr. Patel approached, his usual neat appearance disheveled after a night of frantic work. "The atmosphere is breathable, Captain, but there are trace elements we can't identify. I'd recommend we use filtration masks when outside for extended periods." Lieutenant Commander Jackson joined them, his face grim. "We've managed to salvage most of our handheld weapons, but our ship-based defenses are offline. We're vulnerable if the Zarkaf find us." Sarah nodded, processing the information. "And our communications?" Ensign Foster shook her head. "Still down, Captain. The storm fried our long-range systems. I might be able to rig up a short-range communicator, but it'll take time." "Time we may not have," Sarah mused. She was about to continue when a distant rumble caught her attention. Looking up, she saw a trail of fire streaking across the sky. The Zarkaf ship, entering the atmosphere. "They found us," Jackson said, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. Sarah's mind raced. "All right, listen up. We can't stay here. Foster, grab whatever equipment you need to work on that communicator. Patel, pack essential medical supplies and your research gear. Jackson, distribute weapons and rations. We move out in 10 minutes." As the crew scrambled to prepare, Sarah took a moment to address them. "I know we're in a dire situation, but remember, we're explorers, scientists, and above all, human beings. Our species has faced countless challenges and always found a way to persevere. We'll do the same here." With a mix of determination and fear, the crew of the Horizon ventured into the alien forest. The vegetation was unlike anything they had seen on Earth. Massive iridescent leaves that seemed to pulse with an inner light, vines that writhed as if alive, and flowers that emitted soft, melodic tones. They had been trekking for hours when Jackson held up a hand, signaling for silence. In the distance, they could hear the unmistakable sound of something large moving through the undergrowth. "Zarkaf," Foster whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Jackson shook his head. "Movement patterns all wrong. It's something else." As if on cue, a massive creature burst from the foliage. It resembled a cross between an earth rhino and a centipede, with armored plates covering its segmented body and multiple legs propelling it forward at alarming speed. "Run," Sarah yelled, and the crew scattered. The creature charged after them, its many legs allowing it to navigate the dense forest with ease. Sarah's heart pounded as she leaped over fallen logs and ducked under low-hanging vines. She could hear the panicked breathing of her crew around her, interspersed with the thunderous footfalls of their pursuer. Suddenly, Dr. Patel stumbled, crying out in pain as he fell. The creature bore down on him, mandibles clicking in anticipation. Without hesitation, Sarah turned back. "Jackson, cover me," she shouted, sprinting towards Patel. Jackson opened fire on the creature, his energy weapon leaving scorch marks on its armored hide. The distraction was enough for Sarah to reach Patel and haul him to his feet. "Come on, Doctor," she grunted, supporting his weight as they stumbled away. The creature, enraged by the attack, let out a deafening roar and charged at Jackson. The tactical officer stood his ground, continuing to fire even as the beast closed in. At the last moment, Foster's voice rang out, "Jackson, duck." A massive vine swung down like a pendulum, catching the creature mid-charge and sending it crashing into a nearby tree. The impact shook the ground, and for a moment, all was still. How did you do that?" Jackson asked, staring at Foster in amazement. The young ensign grinned, despite her exhaustion. "I noticed the vines react to vibrations. Thought it was worth a shot." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. This was exactly the kind of quick thinking and adaptability that had allowed humanity to survive and thrive in the face of adversity. Their moment of relief was short-lived, however. The distant whine of engines cut through the air. The Zarkaf were closing in. "We need to keep moving," Sarah ordered. "Foster, That was quick thinking. Keep an eye out for anything else we can use to our advantage. As they pressed on, the alien forest seemed to grow denser, the vegetation more bizarre. Floating spores filled the air, glowing with bioluminescence. Strange, gelatinous creatures clung to tree trunks, their translucent bodies revealing complex internal structures. Dr. Patel, limping but determined, couldn't contain his scientific curiosity. It's incredible, he marveled. The biodiversity here, the complex ecosystems, it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Let's hope it stays incredible and doesn't try to eat us again, Jackson muttered, but even he couldn't hide his fascination. Their path eventually led them to the edge of a vast canyon. The far side was shrouded in mist, but they could make out the silhouettes of enormous floating islands, suspended in the air by some unknown force. Well, that's not something you see every day, Foster quipped, her eyes wide with wonder. Sarah was about to respond when a series of explosions rocked the forest behind them. The Zarkath were getting closer, using their superior firepower to clear a path through the dense vegetation. We need to cross, Sarah decided, her eyes scanning the canyon for options. There, those vines. They look strong enough to support our weight. Jackson eyed the gap dubiously. It's a long way down if we fall, Captain. Then we better not fall, Sarah replied with grim determination. I'll go first. If it holds, follow one at a time. Taking a deep breath, Sarah gripped the vine and began to make her way across the chasm. The vine swayed alarmingly, and more than once she felt her grip slipping on the smooth alien plant matter. But inch by inch, she made progress. Taking a deep breath, Sarah gripped the vine and began to make her way across the chasm. The vine swayed alarmingly, and more than once she felt her grip slipping on the smooth alien plant matter. But inch by inch, she made progress. Halfway across, an energy blast sizzled past her head. Looking back, she saw the first of the Zarkath emerging from the tree line, their insectoid forms somehow even more menacing in the alien landscape. Go, go, she shouted to her crew. I'll cover you. One by one, the crew members began their perilous journey across the canyon. Sarah, clinging to her vine with one hand, used her other to return fire, forcing the Zarkath to take cover. Foster was the last to start across. Just as she gripped her vine, a well-aimed shot from the aliens severed it near the base. With a cry of terror, the young ensign began to fall. In that moment, time seemed to slow for Sarah. Without conscious thought, she let go of her own vine, plummeting through the air towards Foster. She caught the ensign's arm, her other hand frantically grasping for anything to stop their fall. Her fingers closed around a thin, whip-like plant growing from the canyon wall. Their descent jerked to a halt, sending waves of pain through Sarah's arm. But she held on. I've got you, she gasped to Foster. Just hold on. Above them, Jackson and Pottle were returning fire, keeping the Zarkath at bay. Slowly, painfully, Sarah began to climb, pulling Foster up with her. When they finally reached the top, collapsing onto solid ground, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief. They had made it. Against all odds, they had survived. But as she looked at her battered, exhausted crew, and then at the vast, unknown landscape stretching out before them, she knew their ordeal was far from over. The Zarkath would find a way across the canyon. They needed to keep moving, to find a way to turn the tables on their pursuers. As the alien sun began to set once more, casting long shadows across the floating islands, Sarah Chen made a silent vow. They would survive. They would find a way home. And they would show the Zarkath and the universe exactly what humanity was capable of when pushed to its limits. Little did she know, the greatest challenges and the most extraordinary demonstrations of human ingenuity and spirit were yet to come. Turning the tables, as the alien night descended, casting an ethereal glow across the floating islands, Captain Sarah Chen and her crew found themselves in a moment of relative calm. They had made camp in a small cave, hidden from view by bioluminescent fungi that pulsed with soft, otherworldly light. "Status report," Sarah said, her voice hushed but commanding. Dr. Patel spoke first, his eyes gleaming with excitement despite their dire situation. "Captain, these islands are incredible. They seem to be held aloft by a combination of extremely low-density minerals and some form of natural anti-gravity field. The potential applications of such technology." "Focus, Doctor," Sarah gently chided. "What about our immediate concerns?" Patel nodded, composing himself. "Right. The air here is more breathable than in the forest below, but I'd still recommend using our filters. As for food and water, I've identified several plant species that appear safe for consumption, and there's a spring nearby that tests clean." "Good work," Sarah said, turning to Jackson. "What's our tactical situation?" The tactical officer's face was grim. "We've got a problem, Captain. I've been monitoring Zarkath communications with the Universal Translator. They're bringing in reinforcements, a lot of them. Within 48 hours, we'll be vastly outnumbered and outgunned." A heavy silence fell over the group. It was Ensign Foster who finally broke it. "Captain," she said, her young face set with determination, "I think I might have a solution, or at least part of one." All eyes turned to the ensign as she continued. "I've been working on modifying our short-range communicator. If I can interface it with the natural EM fields these islands generate, I think I can create a wide-area jamming field. It won't stop the Zarkath, but it'll blind their sensors and disrupt their communications." Sarah felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. "That's excellent work, Foster. How long will it take?" "With Dr. Patel's help, maybe 12 hours. But Captain, there's a catch. To cover a large enough area, we'd need to place transmitters on at least 3 different islands." Jackson frowned. "That's risky. We'd be splitting up our already limited forces." Sarah nodded, considering their options. "True, but it might be our only chance. All right, here's the plan. Foster, you and Patel focus on building those transmitters. Jackson, you and I will scout the nearby islands, look for optimal placement spots, and any other advantages we can use." As the crew set to work, Sarah couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. Despite being stranded on an alien world, hunted by a technologically superior force, her team was not just surviving. They were innovating, adapting, finding ways to fight back. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Foster and Patel worked tirelessly on the transmitters, cannibalizing parts from their remaining equipment. Meanwhile, Sarah and Jackson explored the floating archipelago, marveling at the alien wonders they encountered. They discovered islands with reverse gravity, where waterfalls flowed upwards. They found creatures that seemed to phase in and out of existence, and plants that communicated through complex patterns of light. Each discovery reinforced Sarah's belief that this mission, despite its dangers, was worthwhile. They were seeing things no human had ever seen before. As the alien sun rose once more, bathing the islands in its violet light, the crew reconvened. "The transmitters are ready, Captain," Foster reported, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. Sarah nodded. "Good work, all of you. Now comes the hard part. We need to split up to place these transmitters. It's dangerous, but it's our best shot at survival. Any volunteers?" Without hesitation, all 3 crew members stepped forward. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat, overwhelmed by their courage and loyalty. "All right," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Foster, you take the North Island. Patel, East. Jackson and I will handle the West. Keep your comms open, and at the first sign of trouble, you abort." "Understood." With determined nods, the crew set out on their separate missions. Sarah and Jackson made their way across a series of naturally occurring bridges, formed by intertwining vines that seemed to respond to their presence. They were halfway to their destination when Jackson suddenly pulled Sarah down behind a large bulbous plant. "Zarkath Patrol," he whispered, pointing to a group of the insectoid aliens moving across a nearby island. Sarah watched the aliens, her mind racing. Then she noticed something. The Zarkath were moving cautiously, almost fearfully. They were just as out of their element in this alien environment as the humans were. "They're not adapted to this world any more than we are," she murmured. "That's an advantage we can use." They managed to avoid detection and reached their target island. As Jackson set up the transmitter, Sarah kept watch, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. That's when she saw it. A massive, jellyfish-like creature floating serenely through the air. An idea began to form in her mind. "Jackson," she called softly, "how much power does that transmitter have?" The tactical officer looked up, confused. "More than we need for the jamming field." "Why?" Sarah grinned, a plan taking shape. "Because I think I've found a way to even the odds." Over the next few hours, as Foster and Paddle reported successful placement of their transmitters, Sarah and Jackson worked on modifying theirs. Using principles of biomimicry inspired by the floating jellyfish, they created a crude but effective propulsion system. As the Zarkath forces began to converge on their position, Sarah gave the order. "Activate the jamming field and launch our little surprise." The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Zarkath ships, suddenly blind and unable to communicate, began to crash into each other and the floating islands. And in the midst of this chaos, a swarm of small jellyfish-like drones, improvised from parts of the horizon and local organic material, descended upon the alien forces. The drones, guided by the humans' jury-rigged control system, wreaked havoc among the Zarkath. They disrupted ship systems, created false sensor readings, and generally sowed confusion and panic among the alien ranks. From their vantage point, Sarah and her crew watched in amazement as their makeshift defense turned the tide of battle. The once unstoppable Zarkath force was now in disarray, retreating in the face of technology they didn't understand. Technology born from human ingenuity and the unique properties of this alien world. As the last of the Zarkath ships disappeared over the horizon, a cheer went up from the human crew. They had done it. Against all odds, they had turned the tables on their technologically superior foes. But Sarah knew their victory was far from complete. They were still stranded on an alien world, with limited resources and no way to contact Earth. And the Zarkath, though defeated for now, would surely return with greater numbers and more caution. As she looked out over the floating islands, now littered with the debris of battle, Sarah felt a mix of pride, determination, and uncertainty. They had survived, adapted, and overcome, but their greatest challenges and their greatest discoveries still lay ahead. The story of humanity's first contact with alien life was far from over. In fact, it was about to take a turn that none of them could have possibly anticipated. Unlikely allies. The aftermath of the battle left an eerie calm over the floating islands. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the edge of their makeshift base, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of Zarkath activity. The improvised jellyfish drones hovered nearby, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. "Captain," Dr. Patel called, excitement evident in his voice. "You need to see this." Sarah followed him to a clearing where a Zarkath scout ship lay crashed, its alien hull gleaming in the violet sunlight. As they approached, she noticed movement inside. "Careful," Jackson warned, his weapon at the ready. "Could be a trap." The ship's hatch creaked open, and a lone Zarkath stumbled out. Its exoskeleton was cracked, ichor oozing from several wounds. The alien's compound eyes fixed on the humans, mandibles clicking rapidly in what Sarah interpreted as fear. To everyone's surprise, the Zarkath dropped to its knees, raising its upper limbs in a universal gesture of surrender. "Please," it chittered, the words distorted but understandable through their universal translator. "Help me." Sarah's mind raced. This was an opportunity, but also a risk. She made a decision. "Dr. Patel, See to its wounds. Jackson, keep watch. Foster, with me. As Paddle cautiously approached the alien, Sarah and Foster entered the downed ship. Inside, they found a treasure trove of Zarkath technology, and more importantly, star charts and communication logs. This could be our ticket home, Foster breathed, her fingers already dancing over the alien controls. Hours passed as they worked to understand the Zarkath systems. Outside, a tense but peaceful coexistence formed between Patel and the injured alien. As the doctor treated its wounds, the Zarkath began to speak. "I am Zix Terra," it said. "Scout second class. What you did, impossible. Defeated our best warriors with floating things." Patel chuckled softly. "Not impossible. Just human ingenuity." Zix Terra's mandibles clicked in what might have been confusion. Humans. Adaptable. Unpredictable. Dangerous. "Only when we need to be," Paddle replied gently. "We prefer peace, cooperation. We came here to explore, to learn." The alien was silent for a long moment. Perhaps mistake was made. Misunderstanding. Inside the ship, Sarah and Foster made a startling discovery. The Zarkath weren't conquerors. They were refugees. Their home world had been destroyed by a cosmic event, and they were desperately searching for a new home. "They attacked us because they thought we were claiming this world," Sarah realized. "They're scared, desperate." Just then, the ship's systems crackled to life. A transmission came through, and the voice that filled the cabin made everyone freeze. "Attention, human vessel," the voice said in perfect English. "This is Admiral Zhao of the Earth Defense Fleet. We've traced your distress signal. Hold position. Rescue is on the way." Joy and relief flooded through Sarah, but it was quickly tempered by the realization of what this meant. If the Earth fleet arrived now, they would see the Zarkath as hostile invaders. The misunderstanding that had nearly cost them their lives would escalate into full-scale war. She rushed outside. "Zix Terra," she called to the alien. "Your people are in danger. Earth ships are coming, and they'll attack unless we do something." The Zarkath's compound eyes widened. "No more fight. Too much lost already." Sarah nodded, a plan forming. "Then let's make sure they understand that. All of you with me. We've got work to do." Over the next few hours, humans and Zarkath worked side by side. They repurposed the jellyfish drones to carry messages of peace, rigged up a massive transmitter using parts from the crashed ship, and prepared a detailed explanation of the misunderstanding. As the Earth ships entered the system, they were met not by hostile fire, but by a swarm of bioluminescent jellyfish drones spelling out peace in English and Zarkath script against the backdrop of space. Sarah's voice transmitted across all frequencies. "Admiral Zhao, this is Captain Chen. Stand down all weapons. I repeat, stand down. We are not under attack." The situation has been resolved peacefully. What followed was a tense but ultimately successful first contact. Sarah and her crew acted as mediators, explaining the Zarkath's situation to the Earth fleet, and vice versa. Zix Terra, speaking for his people, expressed deep regret for the initial hostilities and a desire for peaceful coexistence. Admiral Zhao, a stern-faced woman with graying hair, listened intently. "Captain Chen," she said finally, "your actions here may have averted a war and opened the door for a historic alliance. Well done." As preparations began for formal diplomatic talks between Earth and the Zarkath, Sarah found a moment alone with her crew. "I'm proud of all of you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've shown the very best of humanity. Our adaptability, our ingenuity, and our capacity for forgiveness and cooperation." Patel grinned. "Just another day at the office, right, Captain?" They laughed, the sound carrying across the alien landscape, a sound of relief, of triumph, and of hope for the future. As the Earth ships and the remaining Zarkath vessels hung in orbit, bathed in the light of the alien sun, Sarah Chen looked out over the floating islands that had been their battlefield and their salvation. This world, with all its dangers and wonders, would now become a symbol of peace, a place where two species came together and chose understanding over conflict. The story of humanity's first contact had been one of misunderstanding and conflict, but it had ended with hope and the promise of a new future. As Sarah watched humans and Zarkath working together to establish a joint research base on the planet's surface, she knew that the greatest adventure, for both species, was just beginning. Triumph of the human spirit. 1 year had passed since the fateful first contact between humans and the Zarkath. The once hostile alien world that had been a battlefield was now home to Harmony Base, a joint human-Zarkath research facility. Captain Sarah Chen, now promoted to admiral for her role in averting war and establishing peace, stood at the observation deck, watching the sunset paint the floating islands in hues of purple and gold. "Quite a view, isn't it?" A familiar voice chittered behind her. Sarah turned to see Zixtera, now the Zarkath ambassador to Earth, approaching on his multiple legs. "It never gets old," Sarah agreed with a smile. "Hard to believe a year ago we were trying to kill each other on those islands." Zixtera's mandibles clicked in what Sarah had learned was laughter. "Humans never cease to amaze me. Your ability to turn enemies into allies, to find solutions where we saw only problems, it's remarkable." Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Patel's excited voice over the intercom. "Admiral Chen, Ambassador Zixtera, you need to come to the lab immediately. We've made a breakthrough." Exchanging curious glances, Sarah and Zixtera made their way to the research wing. They found Patel working alongside a team of human and Zarkath scientists, all clustered around a holographic display. "What have you got, Doctor?" Sarah asked. Patel's eyes were alight with excitement. "We've cracked it, Admiral. The secret to the island's anti-gravity properties. It's a unique mineral that, when exposed to the planet's magnetic field, creates a localized repulsion effect. But here's the incredible part. We can synthesize it." Zixtera's antennae quivered with interest. "The applications of such technology are virtually limitless," Sarah finished. "Sustainable floating cities, revolutionary space travel capabilities, new forms of clean energy." "But that's not all," Foster chimed in, stepping forward. The young ensign had flourished in the past year, becoming a key member of the research team. "We've also made progress in understanding the planet's unique ecosystem. The bioluminescent organisms here have led us to develop new medical imaging techniques, and some of the plant species show promise in curing diseases that have plagued both our species." As Sarah listened to the scientists, human and Zarkath alike, enthusiastically discuss their findings, she felt a profound sense of pride and awe. This is what they had fought for, what they had nearly died for: the opportunity to learn, to grow, to push the boundaries of knowledge. "There's one more thing, Admiral," Jackson said, joining the group. The former tactical officer now headed the base's security and cultural exchange program. "The success of Harmony Base hasn't gone unnoticed. We've received requests from 3 other spacefaring species for cultural and scientific exchange programs." Sarah's eyes widened. 3 new species? That's incredible. Zixtera's compound eyes seemed to sparkle. "It appears, Admiral Chen, that your people's reputation is spreading across the galaxy. Humanity is becoming known not as conquerors or mere survivors, but as innovators, peacekeepers, and bridges between cultures." As the implications of this sank in, Sarah found herself reflecting on their journey. They had come to this planet as explorers, become survivors fighting for their lives, and emerged as diplomats and pioneers of a new era of interstellar cooperation. "I think this calls for a celebration," Sarah announced. "Let's gather everyone at the main plaza." Hours later, humans and Zarkath mingled under the starry sky, the bioluminescent plants casting a soft glow over the gathering. Sarah stood on a small platform, raising a glass of synthesized nectar that had become a favorite among both species. "A year ago, we stood on opposite sides of a conflict born of fear and misunderstanding," she began, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd. Today, we stand together as friends, as colleagues, as partners in the greatest adventure our species have ever undertaken. She gestured to the team of scientists. Together, we've unlocked secrets that will change the course of both our civilizations. We've proven that our differences are not obstacles, but opportunities, that diversity is our greatest strength. Sarah's gaze swept across the gathered faces, human and Zarkath, each unique, each valuable. As we prepare to welcome new species into our growing community, let us remember the lessons we've learned here. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. That innovation often comes from the most unexpected places, and that the spirit of exploration, the thirst for knowledge, and the capacity for compassion are not unique to any one species, but are the true universal constants. She raised her glass higher. To the future we will build together, a future of discovery, of understanding, and of harmony among the stars. A cheer went up from the crowd, humans and Zarkath alike raising their glasses in celebration. As the party continued into the night, with music and laughter filling the air, Sarah found a quiet moment to herself. She looked up at the unfamiliar constellations, thinking of the challenges and wonders that lay ahead. The universe was vast, full of dangers and marvels beyond imagination. But Sarah Chen knew that as long as they held on to the spirit that had brought them this far, the uniquely human blend of adaptability, ingenuity, and empathy, there was no challenge they couldn't overcome, no frontier they couldn't explore. The story of humanity's first contact had been one of conflict and misunderstanding, but it had transformed into a testament to the human spirit's triumph over adversity. As humanity took its first steps into a larger galactic community, Sarah knew that their greatest adventures were still to come. In the soft glow of the alien night, surrounded by the fruits of cooperation and mutual understanding, the future had never looked brighter. For humanity, for the Zarkath, and for all the wonders waiting to be discovered among the stars.